I'm bored. I find myself with a lot of free time lately. And to cap things off, my Xbox went and fried on me, so I don't have that to pass the dead moments away. I have a new one coming. When it will be here, I don't know. But in the meantime, I kill time by watching a lot more YouTube than I usually did. And the other day, last night actually, I came across a video by Sam Harris where he was talking about abortion and morality. And not 2 minutes later, I was watching a TV show and that Tim Tebow ad from the Super Bowl came up. If you're not familiar with the ad, check it out here.
I call him my miracle baby. He almost didn't make it into this world. I can remember so many times when I almost lost him. It was so hard. Well, he's all grown up now, and I still worry about his health. You know, with all our family's been through, we have to be tough. Timmy, we're trying to tell our story here.
Sorry about that, Mom. You still worry about me, Mom?
Well, yeah, you're not nearly as tough as I am.
Now, the problem with this ad isn't that they chose a really poor moment to bring up something like an anti-abortion agenda or anything like that. I mean, if that's your point of view, I guess that's your point of view. But the ad totally insults the intelligence of its audience by saying basically if you abort your child, you may be aborting the next Tim Tebow. Now, I like Tim Tebow. I think he's a good dude. I don't usually follow college ball, but I mean, I understand the guy's going to be probably a first-round pick in the draft coming up, and you know, my guess is probably go to Carolina. But it's such a lame excuse and attempt to pull at the heartstrings of the audience. You could just as easily be avoiding the next Charles Manson or, you know, David Berkowitz, for example, the son of Sam. He was an adoptee, you know. If his mother had aborted him, we wouldn't have had the son of Sam. It's a pretty basic 50-50. Now, you know, I'm not saying anyone should, if you had the opportunity to go back and abort your child, especially one of a certain caliber like a Tim Tebow, I wouldn't advocate that at all. But that's because we already know who Tim Tebow is and what he's accomplished. But at the point where they were talking about him, if you go and read the story, his mother was talking about they originally thought that he was going to threaten the life of the mother, and there were all these complications, and by some chance, despite all the complications, he ended up being born a perfectly healthy baby, and that's great. I'm all for that, you know. I'm certainly not advocating the death of a child or anything, but it's the argument that they're presenting that just pisses me off, to be perfectly frank, because it's because of that neutrality. When you're talking about a fetus that's growing in the womb, there's no way of knowing how that baby is going to develop and grow, and who they're going to be, and what their life experiences are going to be like, and how they're going to interpret those experiences, and what kind of adult they're going to turn out to be. Son of Sam is a perfect example. I mean, you're talking about a guy, he grew up his whole life thinking that his parents, that his mother actually had died giving birth. There wasn't an animosity to that, although I understand he still felt upset about the fact that he was adopted nonetheless. I don't know what that means necessarily. It doesn't make all the sense in the world to me, but clearly the dude was crazy because he killed because his dog told him to. But back to Tim Tebow. Now, if you go and watch the interview that his mother gives the Focus on the Family people who sponsored that whole commercial, she ends up attributing everything to signs from God, and if she wants to believe that, I guess that's her prerogative, but it's this forced agenda into the living rooms of the people at home that I have a problem with, and it's things like she continues to, God had a hand in all of this to give the world Tim Tebow. And like I said, the guy is a perfectly good dude, but I just can't fathom the idea that God would go out of his way to give us the next big quarterback. You know, I guess if one day, like after he's done with the NFL and becomes an ambassador for peace and ushers in a new utopia, I'll be happy to eat my words. Somehow, I just don't see it happening. But of course, the agenda-serving bullshit does not stop there. Mrs. Tebow then goes on to talk about the story of the whole thing, where she was on vacation and begins to feel sick, goes to the doctors, and they are the ones who recommend that she have an abortion. They call them a mass of fetal cells, if I remember correctly. And the problem with that, though, is that in the Philippines, abortion has been illegal since 1930, making abortion punishable by up to 6 years in prison. And this is abortion for any reason. They don't do abortions in the Philippines. They don't talk about abortions in the Philippines. So in short, when she says that the Philippine doctors recommend that she get an abortion, she was telling a fib. So we have this completely fabricated story that one group is willing to pay lots of money for you to hear in order to try and sway you to their agenda. These anti-abortion movements are really starting to get on my nerves, and it's things like the stifling of stem cell research, which was what spawned this whole rant in the first place. Listening to Sam Harris go on, I'll post the link in the sidebar of his speech where he's talking about stem cells and how the religious agenda just puts an ultimate halt on something that should be not only government funded but embraced by the world, because there's so many afflictions in the world that could benefit from stem cell research, but these religious nut jobs continue to put a halt on progress, and that's kind of what this is all about. You guys are really throwing a wrench in the ironworks, and the whole thing just pisses me off.